wanted to create this narrative that, I mean, in the beginning of this, when we were still developing, everybody who had a thought on this in the group, we were kind of wanting to create something that would, in my mind, was like an alternate universe, right? You're bringing these characters to life. It's not just, you know, to give us a bit of perspective, because, you know, sure, we can look at all of this in textbooks, and we can look at these images and be like, oh, okay, I can't understand what's going on. But it's a different feeling, and it's a different experience when you bring back somebody who actually existed in this time period, and you kind of give them a story, right? When you have a nurse, right? What's the experience of a nurse in a war, right? Is it as rose-colored as just, you know, sitting by a window looking at, you know, just talking to the soldiers, or, you know, how much bloodshed, how much, you know, wounds are we cleaning up? So that was quite interesting when we did the research. You know, we had this impression that the war was just all about people getting shot and guns going off and all these brutes and everything going to war. But when we actually did the research, we actually found that it wasn't like that on a day-to-day basis. You know, they were having conversations that were just like, oh, really? You know, I didn't even know that they were just like ordinary people. And of course, we put emphasis on Gallipoli because it's the most significant part of the First World War to us as New Zealanders. Hence why we commemorate this event through Anzac Day every year. And the inner monologue helps, you know, us to, as we put it, step into somebody else's shoes and experience this through their eyes, you know, like what you saw and how you felt it. So that's what we just aim to create through the technology that we used, and you guys will eventually see that when we play it. And hopefully it gives you that kind of experience where you feel like, oh, I've actually been taken back to this time period, and I kind of, you know, get a good insight into what was going through this person's mind. And not just what was going on then, but eventually, you know, when you look back in retrospect, like 50, 60 years old later, how has that taken its toll on you?
So Annie is a 22-year-old nurse, and she goes to serve in Gallipoli. Annie is completely fictional, so we're telling a fictional story. However, her fictional story serves as a representation of the story of all the nurses serving in Gallipoli, as well as a bit of the soldiers' stories. We incorporated a video, still images, as well as Annie's voice in order to engage the audience. Everybody likes to hear a story, and putting a real voice behind the story engages even more. In World War I, Annie probably would have written into a diary, or she would have written letters to her family. Now we translate that into modern use of technology, into use of Animoto as a modern extension of the traditional letter or diary writing. Our project fits into transmedia because our story can be seen as a portal to the whole complete story world of everybody in this room. But it also can work alone, so it doesn't need the other stories, but it is connected to them, and depending on which story you enter the whole project into, you're going to have a complete different experience. So that is why our story fits the transmedia purpose of the project.